Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the session. I'm very happy to see you all here and to have you here in this beautiful venue. The sun is shining, so I think that's a very good start for the panel. It's good that we have this panel to focus on youth. That is something that is hugely important, very important to me personally. Young people make up more than 40% of the world's population. They are not just the future, they are powerful agents of change today. Yet more than 400 million young people live amid conflict and violence. Many are fighting, displaced, or living with the daily fears that war brings. In Ukraine, young men face mobilization and separation from their families. Young women also endure disrupted education, displacement, and the impact of daily attacks on their homes, on their lives. Still, many young Ukrainians are volunteering, rebuilding, and caring for others despite the hardship. In Gaza, young people have lost homes, they have lost schools, they have lost loved ones. Young men live under constant threat. Young women face deep insecurity. Yet even there, youth continue to support their communities and speak out for peace. Youth networks at local, national, and international level are powerful platforms to enable young people to unite, to be heard, and to shape global decision-making in peace building. Across the world, young people are rebuilding what conflict has broken, and the European Union stands with them. We are investing in their ideas, in their leadership, and their power to bring peace where it's needed most. So this is why in 10 days we have the second EU Youth, Peace and Security Conference that brings together more than 120 youth. And we are looking very much forward to it and looking very much forward to having you there. Our goal is to strengthen a global network of young peace builders as reliable, credible partners in building and sustaining peace, and to adopt a joint declaration crafted entirely by these young leaders. We also aim to encourage more countries to develop national action plans on youth, peace and security in line with the UN Security Council resolutions. So it is my pleasure to introduce to you today 3 of the young peace builders who not only participate in the conference but who shaped it and who co-own it. First, we have Damir Hasanović, who is a student in diplomacy and security at the University of Belgrade and a UNDP Serbia fellow. He researches defense policy at Voice, a student think tank in Italy, and represents Serbia on the EU Danube River Region Youth Council for Security. He works to connect civil society and policymakers to advance peace and democracy. Then we have Damaris Sandoval, who's a psychologist from Cali, Colombia, and an Afro-descendant leader from Buenos Aires, Cauca. She has worked across Latin America, promoting peace building with indigenous and Afro-descendant communities. Currently with the Mennonite Central Committee in Mexico in Chiapas, she builds bridges among young people and cultures for peace and social justice. Then we have Ilgin Pasli-Brombach, who's the co-founder and director of Plan Impact, a German NGO empowering youth for peace and human rights. She serves on the board of the Youth Peace Ambassadors Network and has represented young people at the Council of Europe. Now with the Academy for Conflict Transformation and Pro-Peace, she focuses on gender equality, participation and democratic resilience in peace building. I'm really thrilled to have you here. Thank you so much. It's really wonderful to hear what you've done. I'm so impressed after reading about you, hearing from you, and it's really the spirit that we need to make the world a little bit better. So thank you in advance.
Thank you.
I want to delve into the questions, and I want to start with you, Damir. 2025 has been a year that is marked by drastic changes in the geopolitical landscape all around the globe. In the midst of the chaos, there has been a surge of youth-led movements and initiatives. And with this in mind, how would you say we can ensure that such movements are not only seen as disruptions, but as vital contributions to peace and to trust and to upholding democratic values in general? Please.
Well, thank you, Benedikta. Just a second, I have to remove it. Well, the first thing I would recommend is actually changing the lens we view the youth and youth movements from. Currently, throughout the world, as you aforementioned, there have been many youth-related movements, protests, and surging. For example, most notably, I can mention Nepal, Georgia, Italy, Serbia, as my own even country. I believe that youth movements everywhere, in every single one of these examples, was viewed as a... it was viewed from a point of view that... I'm sorry. It has been viewed... I'm very sorry.
Well, good. Take your time.
Well, when youth movements arise, they're usually viewed as a challenge to authority. But what is realistically happening on the ground, it's usually people, young people especially, showing where the gaps in government and democratic institutions are. As mentioned, the one closest example to me is Serbia, where for the last year we have had student-led protests all around the country, and the biggest takeaway from these protests is that people who lived in the Balkans during the 90s, they were afraid and they did not have the proper mechanisms to cope with authoritarian regimes and with certain problems within governance. What youth did that revolutionized it in 2025 and 2024 is that they took democratic values, looked at them, and saw that the institutions weren't upholding them. So throughout the protests, they decided to disregard bureaucracy, they decided to disregard partisan movements, they decided to disregard everything that is revolving in the political landscape and only focus on the core democratic values and found a way to shape the discourse of the whole country. As aforementioned, I'm a part of the UNDP Serbia's Fellowship for Peacebuilding. It's called Youth for Inclusion, Trust and Equality. I believe this perfectly encompasses what youth networks can be, especially in the Western Balkans, which were shaped with many dissimilarities and conflicts in the past 50 years. And it brought together people from the region, from Serbia, from Kosovo, from Albania, from Montenegro, and North Macedonia. And we are all working together on creating a more stable future for this region. But also we are working on how to spread this influence into the general population. So, for example, we are doing many campaigns, we are doing many practical on-the-ground grassroots initiatives because that is something that has proven more effective in order to skip out symbolic movements and youth being only the quota that has to be filled on the map. This has shown practical solution, and this has shown practical revelation in how youth can foster democratic values.
Thank you so much. Let me follow up with Damaris. Damaris, can you share with us some examples of what young people in Latin America are doing for peace and security?
Thank you so much for the question. Good morning, everyone. I'm very grateful for being here today, and I want to share a little about my experience as a young peace builder in Colombia, Honduras, and Mexico in Latin America, and also some of the action young people are leading across in Latin America. In Cauca, is a state of south of Colombia. Youth work for peace building and violence and the presence of different armed groups. Through the indigenous guard, they protect their territory, culture, and human rights, acting peacefully and collectively. Afro-descendants youth work to recover historical memory, defend land, and promote peace through art, education, the peaceful contribution of Afro-descendants culture to Colombian society. In Chiapas, Mexico, when I live right now, young people face discrimination, violence, and threat from organized crime. They defend water and natural resources, connecting their spirituality and indigenous identity to the land. This initiative shows that providing practical tools empowers youth, transforming from passive just subjects to active actors in consolidating peace and defending human rights. In Honduras, in Central America, young people develop entrepreneurship projects and foster social growth in marginalized communities. They combine urban art, hip-hop, storytelling, and audiovisual work with training of human rights, leadership, and gender equality, building inclusive and resilient communities. But for the young people in Latin America, peace is more than the absence of conflict or war. Peace is justice, is opportunity, and dignity. Is when young people can express their truth without fear. And when everyone is treated with respect, regardless of race, class, gender, religion. These examples show that young in Latin America are committed to building a society free from violence and where dignity is common.
Thank you so much. I think these are really valuable lessons, and sometimes I believe that too many are forgetting the value of peace. Too many are forgetting that we really need to fight for peace, that we need to do a lot for peace, and I think you put it perfectly, that peace is justice, is opportunity, and the absence of violence, it's really important, and I think it's important to remember what it feels like and what it is without it. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Then I come to you, Ilgin. As a leader of an international youth network, what do you think youth networks uniquely bring to this era of democratic backsliding and conflicts? And where do you see their role in reinforcing democracy and sustaining peace?
Thank you very much, Benedikta, for this question, and thank you everyone for being here. I must admit I'm very happy to see this many young faces among us. So yes, I speak to you today as a board member of the Youth Peace Ambassadors Network, but I also speak to you as a migrant woman, as a young peace builder, as a practitioner. Thank you. And as someone who has a lived experience of silencing, and someone who turned this experience to activism. If I may take a step back and go to my story, growing up in Turkey, I saw what it means when freedoms and civic spaces shrink and inequalities harden. Opportunities were not equally distributed, especially for minorities, women and youth. So I began to ask, how can we call this living in peace and democracy if our voices are silent and opportunities to thrive are denied? And this question shaped my path to here. So today, when we're talking about democracy and peace, we must also confront an uncomfortable truth. Yes, the world is more interconnected than ever, but it's also deeply fractured, and nothing about the past years have been ordinary. We're witnessing violent conflicts on a scale unseen since the World War II. Each crisis, from Ukraine to Gaza, from Myanmar to DRC, and many more places around, is not only a collapse of systems, but also stolen futures. So this must remind us that democracy and peace must be constantly rebuilt and fiercely defended and owned by communities and youth at the center. And let's be honest, the impact of these crises are not shared equally. Here is the paradox. It is young people who are carrying the heaviest burdens of conflict, yet they are still often the less trusted to be less trusted with the solutions. So still, too often, youth and youth networks are invited for consultation only to see that their ideas are shelved. This is not only frustrating, but also dangerous. So we are at a turning point, and we must ask, how do we move beyond words into action? as sustaining peace isn't that what is written on a paper, it is what is on in communities. And youth networks are already working relentlessly for it. So what are their unique strengths? If I may give you 3 examples. We have speed with legitimacy. So while many cannot because of the bureaucracy embedded, the horizontal nature and locality of youth networks allow them to act quickly, to respond to crises, to prevent conflicts, and their messages land as they are locally embedded. We have a bridging power. We build connections between formal and informal, online and offline, policy and practice, and grievance and problem solving. So this is a superpower, I believe, when it comes to depolarizing and empowering and enabling. 3, youth networks engagement in bottom-up peace building and violence prevention, and community-led resilient activities, for instance, through peace education, contributes to rebuilding social trust, social cohesion, and leading to reconciliation across generations, so contributes to long-term peace processes. So when I'm asked where I see the youth networks in sustaining peace, my answer is not on the margins, but at the center. And this is what exactly my own story also illustrates. My turning point after growing up in the atmosphere I mentioned wasn't a high-level conference or a forum. It was a youth-led training by the Youth Peace Ambassadors Network. That training and the continuous support from that network empowered me like I've never been. And it convinced me if this is what youth can achieve together, then my role must be multiply this impact. And this network, which is a Council of Europe-born initiative, today is a community of more than 160 young peace builders all around. And in the last years, we have trained and mobilized more than 4,500 youth on issues they identified as urgent in Sami in Ukraine, in Leposavic in Kosovo, in Mayotte, and many other places. And these young leaders have gone on and designed dialogue spaces, countered harmful narratives, and channeled their insights into different policy processes. Others also ensured structural uptake on youth voices at different levels. For instance, we recently have one of our members representing us in the Council of Europe's Advisory Council on Youth, or myself as a youth delegate recently to the Congress of Council of Europe as well. So here is the lesson. When youth and youth networks are actively, systematically, and meaningfully engaged and partnered with, what begins on the ground becomes structural pillars of more just and peaceful future. So I began with a paradox. Let me end with a choice. We can continue to treating youth as the last to be trusted, or we can finally recognize them as leaders and partners of today. The choice is ours: formal peace that falters, or a living peace that endures. Peace cannot wait, and so youth as well. So thank you.
Thank you so much. I think these were very powerful words. And as I said at the beginning, youth makes 40% of the world's population. So I think we would be well advised to include this part of the population. We have these conversations often. Youth is one part of the population that we are not, I believe, paying enough attention to. So I'm very happy that we have the panel today. And I'm really thrilled to see so many young people here in the audience. Women is another part of the population where I think we need to integrate much more into everything concerning peace, because we have so many statistics that peace is more sustainable if women are involved. And I'm sure the same goes for you. So thank you very much for reminding me. I will open the questions to the audience, so get prepared. I have one more important question that I want to ask, and then I will look at you for your question. Everything that you do is impressive. You create change. You disrupt to some extent, I'm sure. And I'm sure that has many people who are applauding and who are your fans. And I can also imagine that there are many people who don't like it at all, because you are disrupting, you're doing things that run counter to their ideas. So what can international or regional actors do to better protect the youth who are doing that? Because we need you. I think, as I said, it's so impressive to have this movement coming from you. But what can we do to better protect you? Maybe I can start with you, Damir.
Of course. Well, I would turn to you mentioned the Youth, Peace and Security Agenda, which is also the most important document regarding the youth. the one pillar that stands with me the most is participation. And this also goes back to what Ilgen and what I mentioned, that youth only represent a quota to be met instead of actually being consulted on how to fix certain issues. This is a very dangerous model, and that's the one thing I would actually vouch for, is for youth to be not only represented more, but for their voices, their opinions, and their analysis to be included in some, not only strategies, but policy-making documents, because, as I said, the youth see at the grassroots level without anything obstructing them. They see realistic problems, and they see the most effective way to change them and to fix them. So that would be the main reason why youth should be implemented.
Thank you very much. Do you want to comment on the what can we do to protect better? Damaris, do you want to comment on this?
I know.
No. Okay, you?
Yes, of course.
Yes.
So I must start by saying we are great at producing more and more policy papers, recommendations, but it is the time to also take these recommendations and policy papers and localize them and bring them to the ground. As Damir was already mentioning, we have 2250, we have 2535, which are already setting the ground for it. But we need to bring these to the ground, and it has to stop to stay in the level of Council of Europe's Parliamentary Assembly, in the level of UN, but it has to come. So it has to also start from the top down and creating opportunities and fundings, but also it has to go from bottom up. And the protection is, of course, an amazing and very important part of it. And actually, maybe if I can have a break here and give you an example of what happens when the protection is not there. I was mentioning in my last intervention that I was a youth delegate from Turkey to the Congress of Local and Regional Authorities of Council of Europe. The youth delegate from this year, who was in my very position this year, was recently arrested after his intervention in a Congress session as a youth delegate. So let me ask you, if youth are afraid of their lives, how can we ask them to take lead? This is why safeguarding must move from paper to practice through a holistic approach, through dedicated funds that arrives in the speed of reality. And so establishing larger and more adequate funding mechanism has to it has to go hand in hand with protection and safeguarding measures. And it has to go hand in hand again with a youth marker to track these allocations, with flexible micro grants for youth protections needs during crisis, and pairing that with emergency windows as well, so that youth networks can act during escalation as well, not after it. And then I believe this also again has to go hand in hand with coupling this with providing constant capacity development opportunities for youth-led organizations and youth together. I have to underline here the constant opportunities, because the needs of youth are changing as our world is changing. It's more, as I was saying, it's more interconnected than ever. But we have also very interconnected crises that we are facing as youth. So this capacity building has to go facing the needs of the youth, but this also has to be, in my opinion, coupled with a youth-sensitive and gender-responsive training for officials who are engaging with youth, and on do no harm as well, and on conflict and sensitivity as well. And maybe I can finish my words with saying that we need change with, not change for. We need to mandate designated seats, youth seats, across the decision-making cycle with feedback loops, and do not measure youth engagement with just head counts, and make sure that youth are, as also told a lot, in the room, around the room, and outside the room, and not only on youth topics, but also every topic that are that we're facing for our interconnected world right now. There's of course much more to say, and there are beautiful recommendations to follow, but I will cut it here. But I want to finish my words by saying, as I stand here today, I want to invite also each of you to reflect on our shared responsibility. You also have a role in co-shaping our future. So let's not wait for these changes to happen, but let's build it together, let's build it intergenerationally, let's build it intersectionally, and let's build it holistically. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Another important reminder that each and every one of us can do something. So I think it's for us to reflect what is this contribution that we can bring, each of us. And I think you also mentioned another important aspect, which is training. We all, in a way, live in our own bubbles. And of course, it's important to train to create awareness, to see, what is there beyond our immediate world or awareness that we need to become better at. So I think that's really crucial. So I would like to open the questions now to the audience, and please raise your hands. Yes?
Yes, I'm sorry, I have a comment.
Yes, please.
Thank you. I think that networks save, networking protects and multiply this impact, provide safe spaces for young people and sense of solidarity. I have a recommendations that I share with you. Strengthen democratic institution and civic space, so your youth organization can be empowered. Is so important for the young people in Latin America, and support youth-led documentation and awareness project, and listen to their early awareness about violence. Provide flexible, multi-year funding, not tied to specific projects, so youth can respond to what is needed and sustain the peace-building work. And create multi-sector working groups with youth and authorities to coordinate action and follow up this recommendation. Protect young human rights defenders as risks, including European Union protection mechanisms, simpler business process, and measure against transnational repression. Very young people are in risk right now for peace building, for human rights defenders and around the world. I think that for young people in Latin America, working in network is powerful. It gives inspiration, connection, and confidence, showing that many of us are striving together to build a more just society. When we work in network, we are not alone. Is so important to us. And what the right support young people individually as a part of network become powerful forces for change, turning challenges into opportunities and dreams of peace into reality. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Damaris. I'm now looking at you. What are your questions, please? There's the first one here.
So, hello everyone, can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, okay. So, my name is Moncef Campos. I'm a master's degree student in history at Sorbonne University in Paris. In the discussion, you mentioned how youth movements have this potential for change to bring something else to the table. And we all agree about that. Remember in France, we had in the 70s big movement, and now these people are in power. So, of course, you have an impact. Just one thing. But we have maybe today a very special time frame, maybe the first time in the world, where every youth can actually communicate together, have the same cultural norms, and have enough, in a sense, are part of the same community. So the question is simple. Do you think that tomorrow we can actually have a global youth movement for changing the world, for having a big political change, revolution, most likely?
Let me look around if there's a second question, then we can maybe take both of them. Please. I will go to you. I will
Hi,
go
everyone.
to you afterwards.
My name is, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, okay, good. I'm Hilde Neman. I'm with Search for Common Ground, and we're a long-time partner of the Youth, Peace and Security Agenda. Some of you may know my colleague Saji, who's very active in this field. And I think I wanted to follow up on something that several of you spoke to around safeguarding and protection. And I think it's something that we also learned by working with many of you. I think we were for many years dedicated to lifting voices of young people into international arenas. But we also see that there's a lot of backlash and there's a lot of protection issues around that. At the same time, we don't want to take the chances away from you. Like, we shouldn't be deciding for you. So I think I'm looking for what are very practical ways that you have, that you can advise us as your partners. What can we do better to protect you as you engage in this important space? Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'll take a third one, please.
Hello, my name's Kyle. I work a lot in the world of animals, so in my work it's often about trying to get youth to care about animals and conservation and things like that. And all of you speak so clearly about how important it is for young people to be involved in every solution in this world. But how do you motivate and inspire the average young person? So the young person that doesn't know about politics, that doesn't maybe even... Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Oh, I can't.
Yeah.
That doesn't know about what's actually happening in their community, but they know that they're disrupted. How do you motivate them to care and to get involved and just generally inspire them?
Thank you very much. These are really amazing questions. I want to start with the first one, and I will give these questions to you all. I would very much like to know the answer to it, because I think there's so much at stake. And on the one hand, we see people who are doing a lot to change the world, and on the other hand, I think there's a big group that doesn't do enough, that is not clear enough and awake enough. So I think it's really important, how can we reach them, and then how can we get them to participate and be active. So let me start with you, Damir. What do you think can we do to motivate more people? And maybe if you want to answer also to the protection, what can be done better to protect young people?
Yep. Well, we as human beings are very comfortable. We love to be comfortable. We love to be in our own little spaces, and that's very individualistic. So I think the only way, and I'm speaking from experience as well, when people start to care about the things surrounding them is when it affects them. If they feel it on their skin, as there is a saying, then they will actually start caring about it. But it's usually too late to care by that point. So I would really focus on bringing it, again, the grassroots level. I mentioned it 50 times. You have to bring it closer to them, because when people speak about politics, about any issue in the world, it's usually so theoretical, and it's so using big words, and it should be the exact opposite. It should be very close to the person, and it should be shown to them on the example that is close to them. Because some things that would be a good example for a person from France could not be a good example for a person from Serbia, Turkey, Mexico, etc. So that would be my answer. For the second one, on how what mechanisms to be more protected, I feel like Iljan will speak on this a lot more better than myself, but I feel like it should be brought to the attention of everybody, because it usually becomes a transfer of information between a government, between a institution, between other external actors that are affecting a person, but it should be a thing that is cared about by everyone around you, by your fellow neighbors, by your of course your family, but also the people in the city you live in, and even in the country you live in.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I'm sorry.
Exactly on the global youth movement, the revolution.
Well, I do think the youth is the best mechanism to influence change, but I don't think that it's going to be the this global big movement. As aforementioned, it has to be tied to a specific region, and it has to be implemented within the setting of a country or a region, etc. So a big idea, yes, but a movement as an organization, I do not think so. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Damaris, would you like to add something to this?
Okay, thank you so much. I think that exists mechanisms to protect young people around the world, but these mechanisms are no for young people in Latin America is for more communities not real. I think that is so important exchange this information around the region in Latin America. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And again, you're busy writing.
Yes, because I will forget.
No, I mean, there's so much to say, and I really like these questions. And here you have people who are already living it all, so it's good to hear from you.
Thank you very much, and thank you all for these questions. Let me start with the safeguarding and protection. And yes, thank you for mentioning this specifically. Some practical things that comes to my mind. For instance, for the first, when the rights of young people, when the rights of minorities are not protected, when people are not safe, when their civic and political rights are not there, in the countries that we're working in, this is the very baseline that is really hard to work with. So, but what can we do about it is advocacy in those countries, and creating coalitions, not only doing it alone, creating coalitions with youth networks, together inviting different actors and stakeholders to these coalitions and co-defining and designing these advocacies all together. So another thing is asking youth that you engage with, what do they need? You're bringing them to these tables, but are they afraid? What is their concerns? What can they face? Maybe they do not want to be in pictures, but they want to contribute. Maybe it will really pose them threat if you post their names as participants. And I just want to really give a recent example from our work in the Youth Peace Ambassadors Network, where we really bring young people from conflict-affected backgrounds together. What we do is we really ask this in advance, and for a recent training that was done with the Youth Department of Council of Europe, we refused to post their names. They were asking that we should initialize their names. No, we refused to post it, and this really gave this security feeling for those young people to join and be there, and that they contributed. And then building safe spaces for those young people when they are there, using inclusive languages. Also, data protection mechanisms are extremely important. If we're talking about that their data can be breached, in this sense, we have to collect data, of course, for reporting, but then we have to have really data protection systems that are there. And then this one I want to finish by saying, also repeating what I was saying, giving trainings also not only to youth then, but also to those people in your organization that are engaging with youth. And then this has to be on do no harm as well. This has to be conflict sensitivity with a youth lens. And then maybe one last thing on it is this is my hardest word in English pronunciation. Disaggregating data. It's also really important in all your analysis, so that you know that your analyses are also helping to check and define the issues. I will go to the global youth movement. There are already many movements that are also going in. For instance, you were mentioning about SAIGI. SAIGI is also a part of the global coalition on youth peace security from a organization like Search for Common Ground that is working for youth, but it is in cooperation with an organization that is youth-led, which is UNOI, and then which is also working worldwide, and it's also in cooperation with UN itself. Or we have our ROC here, which is also co-leading the European coalition on youth peace security, and this is, for instance, how we ended together with the Search for Common Ground and Finnish YPS network. And this is, for instance, how we now are organizing this session, conference that we were mentioning in the very beginning that is going to happen in 10 days in Brussels. And then, for instance, this conference doesn't end up as a European conference, but we will have 120 young peace builders from all around the world. I'm turning to our participants that will come, for instance. So joining up forces, it is already happening. Unfortunately, it's also not that easy to figure this out, as then I'm also maybe coming to your question. As you're living your life and struggling with your studies, it's not easy to figure this out. But in this, I think what I want to say is like national level, starting at the national level, starting at the local, and just meeting others. And then the importance of maybe education for peace. So going to the trainings, meeting other people, it is helping to this like multiplying effect of stepping up to the level of global as well. And of course, national is also very important, or regional is also very important, but it can also go hand in hand. And then for what you were saying, like how can we make them to care to get involved? Maybe here's a good opportunity for me to exemplify our work in the Youth Peace Ambassadors Network on education for peace and human rights. That we do, if I may exemplify it fully, that we do ask young people in the national areas that we work in with. I mean, we work in always with partner countries. So our partners are reaching out to different organizations who has connections, maybe through social media, which is one that youth are using a lot right now, and asking their needs. What do they want to be having an education on connected to peace education right now? And then we co-design trainings on these topics so that young people are coming there to listen about this and co-learn together. And then this is also, we always try to choose, not try, but we always choose disadvantaged youth so that they have also these opportunities to come from a village that is not, that they do not have maybe these opportunities to engage with international opportunities, that we are inviting them. And then we aim to always ensure inclusion and promoting gender equality in all these. But then in our trainings, we do not teach them what to think, but how to think critically. And we do not simply, for instance, define what is a conflict, but we aim to equip participants with skills, knowledge, attitudes, and values to address the root causes of these conflicts and prevent and resolve and transform these conflicts. And we do not give them only like an understanding of what are human rights, but we give them the understanding of what are skills, knowledge, attitudes, again, to contribute to respect of and protection of human rights. And we create safe spaces and spaces for dialogue, because dialogue and trust are really too important for creating this ground-up approach. And then also, but then when we're talking about education for peace, I have to say this also can happen in the formal places. What we do is non-formal, and I have to highlight formal, non-formal, and informal has to go hand in hand with experiential, with experiential and learner-centered and holistic approaches that are also reflective, so that the participants come, like people, young people coming there, are not only hearing we don't learn only from experiencing it, but we also learn from reflecting about it, so that you give this opportunity for young people to reflect on what happens. And then also, as the last thing, and I will cut it out so much, as the last thing, that after this reflection, that we give them the opportunity to think about, okay, what do I want to do in local? And then we couple this with mentorship for designing these locals, and then connecting them with our partners, connecting them with other youth, so that they do something after that together with our mentorship that is multiplying. I will cut it here. I would be very happy to connect after with you to follow it up. Thank you, and I'm sorry for my long intervention.
Thank you very much. I think we sadly do not have time for more questions. Thank you so much for being here, and I would like to ask the three of you, what is the one thought that you would like to give to the young people in the audience? What would you like to leave them with? One plea, one wish, one recommendation, one piece of encouragement. What would you say? Let me start with you.
Of course. Well, given that you're here, you already have the knowledge, enough of it, I believe, and you already have the willpower to change the world. So I think that you should just listen to your heart and follow it, even though it might lead you down some roads that are not very, taken usually, but do it because at the end it's for the best.
I think that's really beautiful. Thank you, Damaris.
Thank you so much for listening us. I have a recommendation for the state support initiative leadership for young people around the world. Strengthen the process of leadership for young people is so important for the region in Latin America. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Again, please.
I would say join up forces, meet other youth, join your power, and then keep repeating that we can repeat what has failed, or we can dare to lead differently and call it differently and make peace a lived reality together. Keep asking it and advocate for it.
And I would just add, we are the greatest asset the future has, so use it wisely.
Super. Perfect words to end on. Thank you so much. Please give a big hand to the panelists. Thank you.